Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Furniture Flipping Teacher. I am so excited about this video because I am going to be flipping this 4-piece vintage Drexel furniture set. So I found this set on Facebook Marketplace for $600. But I waited a few days to reach out and I saw that they had lowered it to $580 and I was like, okay, well, they're willing to go lower, so I'm just gonna reach out and see how low they would actually go, kind of explain what I'm gonna do with them and such. And they ended up going down to $500, which is more than I think I have ever paid for a 4-piece set like this. But I have been dying to get my hands on a campaign style dresser set, and I have some really fun and interesting ideas that I am going to do on this set. Maybe nothing that you haven't seen before, but I'm gonna put my own twist on it and I'm super stoked. So let's dive right in and remove all the hardware. So it looks like these pieces have like a back plate and a front piece. So I'm gonna keep all of these together. I really like the look of the original hardware, so I'm gonna hope to clean it up a bit. Okay, all the hardware is removed. There were 22 pieces of hardware, so that'll be fun to clean a little bit later down the road in the project. Now it's time to clean the bases of the pieces though. And it's important to clean before doing any work because you don't want to grind down any of that dust or oil into the surface of the wood. And I can see like underneath the hardware, there is just a bunch of dust. I mean, the hardware pieces probably have never been removed. So realistically, there's a bunch of dust and dirt and oil that just gets trapped behind there and never gets cleaned unless it's removed. So we're gonna take that first step. I am gonna just be using the Lily Moon Furniture Prep. I put it into a spray bottle and this is going to help get the whole surface clean. And I don't need to rinse this because it will not leave any residue behind, which will, at the end of the day, save us a little bit of time. While I'm cleaning, I'm also going to take out the drawers and start to label them. That way I can set them aside and make sure that everything behind everything is clean as well. All right, so here is a slight imperfection here. There's some missing veneer right there, as well as right here and right here. And then there's a few spots on the nightstands as well, but we're gonna go ahead and fill this in and sand it back. And then we're gonna try some color matching on this in a little bit, so stay tuned for that. So for these first couple repairs, we don't need too much. Just gonna get enough to make sure that it'll fill the entire area, but not too much so that it'll dry too quick. I kind of like to overfill it just a tad bit so that way I know that it's going to be evened out once we sand back the excess Bondo after it is hardened up. It's time to sand, and I am gonna be doing some sanding down to bare wood in some areas and then just scuff sanding in other areas. I've kind of got my pieces separated out for what I'm doing where. So on these drawers behind me, this is all gonna be raw wood. And then on the tops of these nightstands, we're gonna go to raw wood. On the bottom's just gonna be scuff sanding. And then over there is gonna be scuff sanding. And then kind of a similar situation into the bigger pieces that are still over there behind me. I'm doing 180 grit. Usually I do a 120 grit, but I do not want a chance getting too far down on the veneer to where I like burn through it, because I'm really banking on the raw wood look. And in the areas where I made some repairs with Bondo, I'll have to kind of color match and figure out how we're gonna make that look seamless. But I would rather not have to do any more of that type of repair than necessary. So I'm gonna just go really slow, be really careful, and utilize a 180 grit sandpaper with my Surf Prep sander and the vacuum dust extractor so that we can get these sanded down ASAP. All right, so at first, this little area right here on the corner had just a couple of veneer chips, and so I had filled them with Bondo, which was blue, and I just figured that even though I wanted to do a paint wash on the top here, I could still mask the blue Bondo with maybe some paint. But the more I kind of sanded away the Bondo, there was more loose veneer and it just kept chipping off. So I've got a pretty good size area right here that is missing the veneer, and I still really would like to try and mask that so that I can do my original plan, my dipped wood look. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to use a new to me product. It's called Good Filla, and it's water-based, like grain filler and wood filler. It's kind of this similar color as the wood here, the veneer. So I figured that I might as well try it. And so I'm gonna apply it to this area. And I feel like this will be a little bit easier for me to kind of mask off the look that maybe it is truly the veneer. They have a bunch of different colors. There's also this kind of more natural colored one, which I'm thinking I might grab a little bit of it and kind of mix in with this, because this one does seem a bit dark. So I'm just gonna kind of lighten it up a little bit. And then this will give me at least like a better base layer to paint with so that I can kind of get the same color veneer look. So it says that this stuff is non-shrinking and it kind of holds up really well. It can be used as a grain filler or for like bigger fills like this one. But so far, I mean, it goes on really well. It's got a nice workable time. Okay, so it's not super close, but it's also not super far away, like a blue color, like the Bondo was. So there's potential to get this color matched like I want it. All right, so we're gonna let that dry and we'll come back and sand it here in just a little bit. But for now, I'm gonna continue sanding away to raw wood. I've gotten all of the sanding down to raw wood that I had planned, all finished up. I've got the nightstands done. I've got some drawers done, and then I've got this long dresser done. Everything is really sanding back nicely. So as you can tell, I stopped around a third of the dresser, and that's because I'm gonna be doing some sort of dipped look. So above is gonna stay wood, and then below is going to be painted. So it kind of just a matter of what color I'm planning to do for these pieces. But for the nightstands, it'll kind of stop right under that first drawer, and then everything below will be painted. And then actually on the taller piece over here, I am planning on doing some of the entire, or not some of, but I am planning on doing the entire thing painted the same color that will be down below on these guys. So with that being said, now I need to scuff sand the remainder of the parts that I did not sand to raw wood. So I'm gonna still use my surf prep and a 180 grit, and we're just gonna give that a nice scuff sand. And what that's gonna do is just really help the primer adhere nice and snug onto the surface of the dressers. Sometimes there is a little bit of an adhesion issue because typically the finish of pieces before you would roughen it up is really smooth, sometimes glossy, and there's just not a lot of tooth to grip onto. So that sander will just kind of roughen up the surface a bit and give the primer something to bond with. Okay, so I think this wood filler is dry enough, so I'm gonna sand it down, see what we're working with. I'm gonna add in just a little bit more. It's looking really good. Obviously there's still a color difference, but like I said, it's much, much better than it would be if I got just Bondo, blue Bondo. So I'm gonna try adding just a tad bit more here to just make sure it's all nice and filled correctly. Sanding is finally done, I think. I think I've got it all done. Maybe have a few more drawers to sand, but those are like the inside drawers. So I'm gonna take a break from sanding since I've been doing that nonstop for the past couple of hours. And I am going to paint wash the tops that I did sand raw. So I have Lily Moon Paints Cozy Cottage or Cozy Latte in the mineral form. And I am going to utilize this watered down as a paint wash for the tops here. And that's just gonna help minimize like the yellow tones in the wood and just make sure that everything is a nice solid color here. And then I think I'm gonna be layering another color on the top, but we'll kind of wait and see how I'm feeling about that final look once it gets on there and dries. But I am gonna be using my Zebra Palm Pro brush, which is a brush that I love to use. I love all of the Zebra brushes, and if you use my code and the link down below in the description, you can get a discount on your orders from Zebra. Everything will be linked down below. So all I'm gonna do here is I've already got it watered down. There's really not a specific measurement for, as like far as water to paint goes. You can do 50-50, you can do 25-75. It's kind of just dependent on how diluted and how like dark you want your paint wash to actually be. And then you'll utilize some paper towels to wipe back the excess of the paint wash once you've got it all on there. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. The one step that you may want to consider as well is just kind of spritzing your surface with some water, and this will kind of just help it accept the paint wash a bit better. And all you do is dip it in there, and you're going to be able to tell like it's a lot more watery than a typical paint because we've added a lot of water to it. I have found that doing it like one big section at a time is the best way to go, because that way you can make sure it's the most even possible. Otherwise, sometimes you can start with like smaller sections and wipe back, and then it'll kind of start to overlap, which isn't great because then some areas are darker than other areas. So you kind of just want to quickly do it across the entire surface, keeping it a wet surface so that it doesn't dry too quickly and that you can still wipe it off. So you'll notice I'm going from one side all the way with a long stroke to the other side, and then I'm going to do that exact same thing with my paper towel here, because you'll be able to see the brush stroke mark. So it's just important that you go with the grain when you're doing a paint wash. So I'm gonna go from one side to the other all the way across like so. So now we've minimized the yellow completely, and then once this dries, it'll be even less yellow. Sometimes even when the wood is still wet, it'll have a little bit of the yellowish, but at the end of the day, what we're looking for is so that when you put a top coat on, it's not going to yellow the wood in any way or make it turn a little bit orangey. So I'm gonna just do that on the rest of this piece here around the areas that I sanded raw, and then we'll move on to the next piece. So I've done the paint wash pretty much on everything except for the top of this dresser. I was just waiting for this area to dry up a little bit, and I did end up putting a product called Reassembly over it, which is it's a primer, but it has 60% wood fibers in it. And so it's kind of masking it a bit. It's still not quite the exact same color as the top here, but it's a lot closer than it was. And I think with the whole paint wash, we will be able to get a pretty close match once the whole entire top is paint washed. So we're gonna give it a go. Okay, it is now time for what I think is going to be the last step of this kind of like making this wood look like I want it to look, and that is putting a gel stain over the top. So I want to just warm this up a little bit. It's really cool, it's really light, and I just want to put a little bit of warmth, a little bit of brown back in it. And so I was checking out my stash, and I've got some barnwood color gel stain that I've got a substantial amount left of. It's from Reassembly. I did a few test samples over there on some other drawers, and this is gonna look like exactly what I had in my mind, so super pumped for that. It's very similar to putting on the paint wash, and so I'm just gonna like quickly mist the surface lightly. And then I've got my lint-free cloth on hand here, and then I've got my brush, and I'm just going to brush on the stain over the entire surface and kind of getting quite a bit on there so that it doesn't dry too quickly before I can wipe it back. And then once I've got it all on there, I'll be taking my lint-free cloth again and wiping back the excess. And then you just want to be kind of careful around the edges to not kind of overlap it too much, because then it'll leave remnants. And then once you do that side again, it'll be kind of darker than you anticipated it, or darker than everywhere else around. So you just want to kind of be careful about that. But once you've got it all over one surface, you're just going to take your cloth and wipe it back, and you're going to go side to side again, because once it starts to dry and you have less and less stain on your top, then it will start to kind of streak a little bit. So you just want to be careful of that. you're gonna get a new one. I think the main key here is to get enough stain on the top so that it doesn't dry too fast. If you don't have enough, it'll dry way too fast for you to be able to consistently wipe it away like I am right now. So now it is a lot more of a warmer tone of wood, and we're able to kind of see that wood grain really well. And now I'll just go around the other sides, the fronts of the drawers, and I'll be doing all of the pieces like this. All right, I do not like this stain color at all. It is not what I had in mind. It's kind of coming off a little bit blotchier on this wood than I would like, so I'm sanding it all back. And I pretty much did everything except for the long dresser. So I did both nightstands, I did the drawers. So we've got some more sanding to do, and this is totally my fault. I should have just gone with my gut after I didn't like it on the first one and not done the second one, but here we are. And once I get everything sanded down, we'll figure out a new way and a new look, or like a new color that I want to do for this look. This veneer cannot take much more sanding, but I got that layer of paint wash and stain off. So we're back at the beginning, clean slate here, and I am going to paint wash it again. I actually mixed up a different color paint wash to see if we can kind of just keep it a little bit warmer than it was. I kind of used a more grayish tan on the last paint wash. So I'm doing more of like a tannish tan, more brownish tan on this paint wash. But we're gonna do the exact same thing and just gonna dip it in, brush it on, and wipe it back. You guys, I figured it out. This color that I mixed up a paint wash of, it's burlap and like pine cone or something from Dixie Belle chalk paint. And it's perfect. I think once the top coat goes on this, like it's exactly what I was looking for. And then I'm gonna be, like I said, keep saying, doing a dipped look. So I'm gonna be doing a different color down below. But this is exactly what I had in mind, and that means I don't have to do a stain over it. So I'm gonna continue on with this paint wash. So I'm gonna do this nightstand behind me here, and then I've gotta sand down the other drawers I did, sand down the other piece that I did the paint wash on, put this new paint wash on, and then we'll be able to move on to priming the rest of the pieces. Finally, I'm just glad I got it. All right, we are ready to prep for primer, and I think I have come to the decision that I am going to remove the doors for painting. That way it's just a little bit easier to get them painted, and it's gonna be easier for me to tape off everywhere. So I'm gonna remove these guys. Honestly, maybe leave the doors off. Fill these holes, leave the doors off. Paint inside there. I don't think I'm going to, but could be an option. right, that is a long, long job to just tape off everything, plastic off everything that I don't want paint on, but I've got 98% of it done. I just am waiting for those doors to finish drying. I had to do a couple of touch-ups on the dipped part, but in the meantime, I am going to go around to the edges of all of the tape, and I'm gonna take some top coat and just do a little bit of top coat along that taped edge. That way, whatever may seep through to the other side of the tape is gonna be the clear top coat, which then in turn, once I put the primer and the paint on, that won't be the thing that's seeping through. So we'll get a nice crisp line when we remove the tape from the edges of, like, from the difference where the paint will be versus the wood will be. So just like literally a small amount, nothing crazy. It can be any top coat that you have on hand, it does not matter. I cannot believe I'm saying this, but we are ready to prime. I am gonna be using some Wise Owl stain eliminating. So I've got about 2/3 of a can here, which I'm hoping will be enough for all of the surfaces. And I'm just gonna filter it through my strainer here to go inside of my sprayer. Always test your sprayer before putting it on the furniture. All right, good to go. All right, it is time for the next step. So I decided that I'm gonna knock off all of the old bases. There was some significant veneer damage on some of them, and I just figured to modernize this set even more, why not do some bases? So I'm gonna measure this area. This is one of the nightstands. I already took that bottom off. And I'm gonna measure to put a base here on the bottom, and then the same thing will go on that nightstand. But then of course I'll have to measure the other two pieces to get bases on those that will support the weight of all of that large furniture. So whenever you're doing a base, you want to measure how long your space is across here. You want to think about how far inset you want it to be, meaning do you want it to be right on the edge? Do you want it to be inset just a little bit? So depending on your preferences and how you want to set up your base, that'll kind of determine what your measurements will end up being. So for instance, I want mine to be pretty much flush. I want it to be like right on this line. So not like right there, but like maybe less than 1/4 inch. I mean, maybe maybe 1/4 inch. inch-ish. I feel like not even a 1/4 inch inset. So I'm gonna measure, and then what you'll wanna do is when you measure that, you're gonna wanna subtract 3 because your legs are gonna be 2 by 2s, but really they're 1.5 inches. And so if you're gonna have a leg here and a leg here, down here on all 4 corners, then you're gonna have, it's gonna end up becoming 3 inches that will like make up the rest of that distance. So if I have a 24.5 inch base and I want it to be pretty much flush, then I would need to subtract 3 from that, which would end up being 21. So I'm gonna do 21 across. And then if I have about a 17.5 inch side here, then I'm gonna subtract 3, and that's gonna end up being 14.5. So I'll need one 21 inch piece and two 14.5 inch pieces. And then I'm gonna head over to my miter saw and we're gonna make some cuts. So next, now that I've got the pieces that go lengthways, I am making feet that are gonna, or like legs that are gonna go up and down to support the whole thing. And these are gonna be 5 inches to just elevate it 5 inches off of the ground. I need 4 of them. All right, now we sand. All right, so now I am going to be putting pocket holes in these pieces of long boards that these are going to like hold the feet on, and also be able to attach the actual base to the bottom of the piece of furniture. So we're gonna be doing pocket holes in the sides, going this way and this way, and then also down or up toward the top so that it can screw it in to the piece of furniture. So I've got my Craig pocket hole jig, and this is the 720 Pro, and I will link it down below. There's a few different models that are really great. I just grabbed one out, and all you do is get it into the position, push that clamp right down, put the correct Craig pocket hole drill bit on there, and then you create 2 pocket holes like so. Get that out of there. There we've got our 2 pocket holes like that. And then same thing on the other side. So we've got 2 pocket holes going one direction, 2 pocket holes going the other direction. Now we're gonna make them go toward the sides like this so that it can connect. All right, all pocket holes are created for this base. Now it is the fun part. We get to connect everything and make it come to life so we can actually see what it's supposed to be. All right, we got ourselves a base. I thought I was gonna be ready for paint next, but that's not the case because we've got a few areas where I can tell there's still bleed through, even though I've been using a stain blocking primer. Occasionally the bleed through will be like bad enough that you'll need to do 2 coats of it, and that's the case with this specific primer in this set. I'm just seeing some yellowing come through, and we do not want that. So I'm gonna do all I can before putting on the paint. So with that being said, I am going to pop open this new can of primer that I had because I did run out of that other can. Remember, I had only like 2/3 left, but hey, it covered everything I needed. But I did order some new primer with my order of paint, which did come. So perfect timing because now I can use it. And this one is gonna be a darker gray. I decided to go with the darker gray primer when I had ordered it. So it'll be a little bit of a color difference, but this will be even closer to the color that I'm gonna be painting it in the end. It's finally time and we're ready for the final coats of paint. So I'm thinking I'll be doing 2 coats of this, and it's called Weather Vane. It's by Wise Owl. So it's their 1 hour enamel paint. So basically after about an hour, it's 90% cured, and then it takes just a little bit longer, I think like 24 more hours to completely cure up. So as opposed to the normal paints where we, say, okay, it's not gonna cure for like 3 weeks or so, this is not that. This is much faster curing. So it is a little bit more expensive than those paints, but it's because it's so durable, and you don't have to do a top coat over the top of it. So we're gonna load this up in the sprayer. I am using this color called Weather Vane, and it's this really pretty gray color, but it kind of has a little bit of like a green or brown undertone. I can't quite tell because I haven't actually seen it dried on, but whatever it is, I think that it's gonna end up being beautiful. Again, strain. I can't stress that enough. Even though this is a brand new can of paint, I'm straining it through my strainer into my sprayer so that I can avoid clogs at all costs, because trust me, it is not fun to deal with clogs in your sprayer. Load that up. Let's do it. It's about that time. We are on the home stretch. So I am going to go ahead and remove all of this plastic inside. We've got 2 coats of the 1 hour enamel on the framing or the base body of this piece, which means no more painting on this guy. All right, and then now that I got that undone and we're done painting, like I said, I am gonna go ahead and remove this base down here and replace it with one of the bases that I made earlier on. Got it. All right, now we attach the base. All right, this one's gonna be a little trickier than usual, only because this base here, or this piece here, is so tall that I don't really want to put it on its top to put this on. Hopefully I'll have enough leverage pushing it in like this. All right, I am going to go ahead and take off this plastic since everything is all nice and dry now. All right, we are going to now apply some top coats to the areas that I had done the paint wash over. The paint doesn't need a top coat, it's all built in, so I'm just going to focus on the wooden part. I'm using Zebra's top coat brush, which really helps the top coat go on flawlessly and you won't see those brush stroke marks. Holy cow, you guys, this set, seriously, I have been hard at work on this set for the majority of 2 weeks' time, taking a couple days off here and there, but this was a labor of love. I poured my heart and soul into this set. There were some things that needed to be fixed that I wasn't necessarily aware of, like when I purchased it. And so, you know, you live and learn. This was a great learning lesson set for me. I learned or solidified the fact that I really don't care for doors like this, to work on those, because I never know if I should paint the back sides of the drawers and then like cabinets like this, like do I paint the insides of them and that type of thing. And I totally think that it's just up to the person who's making them over or refinishing them. So I did do the back sides of the doors, but I didn't decide to refinish the inside of the cabinet. So I think there's just like a give and take and a personal preference type of thing, what I think will look the best. But all in all, I really think that this set turned out great. I had some veneer repairs over here that you can't even tell was, you know, messed up, or that there was some damage there. So I'm really proud of myself. I'm proud of this set, but let's talk about the numbers because it might be a little bit shocking to you. So for the numbers of this set, you guys know at the beginning, I got this set for $500. So already right there, we're at a very high buy-in. I typically don't do that high of a buy-in, but I was like, you know, it's $500 and it's got really great bones. It's vintage, it's so solid and heavy that I think that even with that high buy-in, I think that I can still refinish it and make my money back and hopefully also make a profit. And then for the red oak and creating the bases, I spent around $125 on just the wood alone. So if you're making bases, it is important to factor that cost into your final design and making sure that, you know, it's basically worth creating that base. And I thought on this set that it really was worth it because it just was able to elevate them. The bases that are kind of like floating bases, or like they make the dresser seem like they're floating, are pretty outdated in my opinion. I decided to create the oak bases and then kind of like match it to the tops. And I thought that that really was a really great color match. Between the primer and the paint paint wash and the top coat, and yes, I even included the couple of layers of like paint and stain that I used and then had to sand off again. I ended up spending $150 on paint and primer, and top coat. So it's kind of a lot, it's kind of up there. I did use Wise Owl primer and paint, and it can be viewed as a little bit more of an expensive paint, and it is, but it is so durable in an hour. an hour. It's called 1 hour enamel. So within an hour, it has got 90% of it cured. And then 24 hours later, the entire piece is cured. So like I could like scratch a screwdriver on here or a coin or something, and it's not gonna come off. So super, super high quality and durable paint. And I went with the color Weather Vane. So I really like the color that it ended up being. Just a $50 miscellaneous category. So this includes things like cleaner, sandpaper, which I used quite a lot of, and then paint and plastic to tape, or not paint, sorry, tape and plastic to tape the drawers off, and just different things like that. Cleaner to clean up the hardware, which I thought also cleaned up really nice. So it's important to also factor in all of those minuscule costs that might not seem like a ton, like a piece of sandpaper or cleaner, but it really does add up in each and every project. Like I said, it might come as a shock to you, but I did end up spending a total, including the initial cost, of $825 on this set to refinish it. Not my best moment in refinishing, but I feel like sometimes if I have such a high desire to do a project, then I'm gonna get it done and I'm gonna do it in the way that I want. I'm not gonna cut corners just because I spent more money on it. If anything, I feel like I should do an even better job so that it has a great result and then thus can like sell for a higher amount. So I have sold a previous set that had 2 nightstands, a long dresser, and a similar actually to this with the kind of armoire type with the drawers below for $1,000, or I think it was $1,100. So if I only sold it for $1,100, I'd be getting what, like $300, not even $300 profit. So I am going to be listing this for like probably just under $2,000, if not $2,000, and we'll see. It's a Drexel set, so I think that that brand name will really attract some people, and then just the modern style of it all and the campaign, the solid wood, I think that it should sell at that higher price. We're gonna cross our fingers potentially before the end of this video, but if not, I'll definitely be sure to update you guys because this was a labor of love, like I said, and I really want to update you and make sure that you know if it was worth all of my time that I spent and put into this, as well as all of the material costs. And as far as time goes, you know, I honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, I didn't track my time on this. You know, I said the better part of 2 weeks, but it doesn't mean that I was working on it straight for 2 weeks straight, day in and day out, every single hour. I would say that if I had to estimate, I would probably say 30 hours in this entire set. So do with that what you want. I had some struggles, I had some things that I had to fix, I had some troubleshooting issues that I was, you know, dealing with, and I really got to learn a lot throughout this entire set. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Tackle that fun project that, you know, maybe is daunting to you, but you're gonna have some learning lessons. That's definitely what this project was for me, was a learning lesson, and then just also like a project that I poured my heart into, and I'm really excited to get it listed and see what my market thinks, because I've got another 4-piece set in the back. I've been looking on Facebook Marketplace for more 4-piece sets, so I just really want to see if this is worth it, if I can sell 4-piece sets for, you know, close to that $2,000 mark. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next Thursday for another one, and I'll see you on the flip side.